gangster and a pickpocket dine together. V degrees RJ to SE. Her and discuss matters on equal terms. Age. 1 Iker I her I met Mthemba, the convicted minister, Nur, die convicted advocate, Kisu Mibili, the evicted magistrate, Njoroj, the rapist, Mathanj, 1 ISR pickpocket, Shikali, the chicken fucker and most remarkably Kisinga. The gangster. A large family of devils. L industrial angels. J loved this house called jail, the only place where equality was exercised regardless of social class. But now one was leaving it, going back to the free world. L bad loved and hate, the world of hate, greed, struggles for power, assassinations and social injustice. But most of all, I hated myself for what was. A factory regged tie was what I was, made up of third-class material. The leftovers of creation. I suspect God must have created me shortly before lunch. The lunch bells were ringing when he was making me in a hurry and leave his workshop. He left me incomplete. Worst of all, he gave me the brain of a chicken and the body of a human. Probably by mistake. God, no wonder he lives in hiding where one can't reach him for complaints. Prayers? Out of the question. One tried all kinds of phrases and flatteries and even wanted to sacrifice a ram. YPL got right same results, so one concluded that God's computies woe. Not channeled you, my station, I suck J ignobility of creation, but that W is HCTVRLTIU Caroline, the woman who made IRTN Medi. By then I was a houseboy. I was bet, fi home, I missed the cockroaches, the lick cap, Lee bugs and the night chorus of rats in the HCL, It was a long time since I had had a JJR degrees LJ. I got so used to living with vermin that one had accept them as part or my family. I could pinpoint which rat was the father of which and difference between a pregnant cockroach and cat one and even notice a missing rat. That was Horge away from the heaven I was living in. Yes, I was a houseboy in this heaven. Iluva. Although I knew it was temporary comfort, I could kicked out at any time and go back to the forsaken suburbs where adults sang Christmas carol in the middle of the year, where folks walked long distances to draw water and where wives didn't wear knickers because their husbands didn't mind. Quite unlike home where folks shared meals with animals, short of chewing grass. In this net home one shared the luxuries of my master. I ate the same royal jelly that F cooked for him, lived in a stone house and not a mud cave. Slept in a comfortable bed instead of that rock-hard bed L had known for years. Clean bedding instead of rags, electricity and all. I was determined to stay. Actually I was just beginning to get settled when the unexpected happened that night. It was around midnight when one was woken up by a soft knocking on the door. T was in the middle of a funny dream and at first thought that the knocking was an illusion. A mix-up in my dream. I listened attentively. All I could hear was the gentle hum of the winds brushing against the twigs of the neatly filmed eucalyptus trees in the compound. Soft musical. The wind sounded like a night angel singing a lullaby to the sleeping bosses who lived in those exclusive residences. Ambassadors, company executives, LOP civil servants and other representatives, all LHE cream and F creation. This reflection always gave me a feeling of guilt. I lolled like a thief, breathing the same air as those men of distinction. One dismissed the knocking as imaginary and resettled my cell in the bedclothes. But it came again, this time distinct and insistent. I was suddenly alert and partly alarmed. I couldn't figure out who the visitor could be at that time of the night. An thief? I wondered. But the place was I guarded. There was a security guard at the gate, not to forget the constant police patrols which kept undesirable characters out of this Hanmood place. After all, I reasoned, only a stupid thief would come to the servants' quarters while all the precious things were in the main building where the boss and his family slept. WHSS at one tin voice quivered with apprehension. Tease me, a soft voice replied. I felt a cold stream flow up in M system when one realized who the caller was. At first I was frozen in a mixture of disbelief, fear and excitement. In that moment of frenzy, the only person who jumped into my mind was my boss, Kahathu. High rich brute who could happily cut me into pieces and iced me to the dogs if he got to know what was going on at this hour. Kahathu was a progressive native in the Corps of New Africans, a top civil servant. He lived among the dignified, owned a large bungalow, big cars and uncountable property. To him, one was just a part all his discarded property. He was hardly aware of existence in his home compound except when paths crossed, which was rare. Like most people in his social bracket, Kahuf lived the Western way, talked Western, laughed, coughed Western, dinaf jackets and all. His children hardly spoke their mother tongue or used their native names. They knew very little about their Felk, natives who lived in the unprivileged suburbs because they were born and brought up in an exclusively Western atmosphere. His son, Peter, couldn't tell the difference between a dog and a goat as he hadn't had a chance to visit the suburbs where goats and people shared the same room. The unexpected visitor was Kahuf's only daughter, Caroline, the pearl of the family. She was also Kahuf's major problem. The NCH civil servant had always had one fear, that Caroline might associate herself with those outrageous teenagers wearing funhell bottoms and bring shame to the family. As a measure to save her from the ignorance of youth, he strictly supervised her. She was at school of Liuish Day High School, for as meant through he was in a position to keep an eye on her. To protect her from hungry teenagers, he made sure that she remained within the home compound whenever out boy school and never went out without a chaperone. But as the saying goes, man proposes, God disposes. When Kahuf was making plans for his daughter, God was making his. It was only natural that Caroline, already an adult, and beautiful and lonely, would try to seek the company of a member of the opposite sex. But the only man within her restricted reach was the only man within the home compound. Hi houseboy named Chamj, me. Tisrak his lakelo night. I was puz her to booty her rh avion which L hadn't no thed before. Thursday tupently, she used to look down upon me with nsiigsto servant altitude, but when she realized that something was missing in her system, a natural urge that only a man could handle, she started seeking the company of the only male within her reach. Common afternoon, I was weeding the flowers near the hedge when the housemaid next door whistled at me. Hi Caroline. The housemaids in this location were sexually starved. They were desperate creatures with no access to young men other than the male servants. One had made me an eligible suitor for the maid's kingdom around me. But die regulations stipulated that I should not invite my mother, let alone a maid, into die servants' quarters. Looking across, one saw the maid standing on the other side of the fence, beckoning me frantically. It was die third time that she had made this kind of approach. Twice before I had failed her, mainly because one objected to hot idea of sneaking into my quarters late at night. I looked around, just and make sure nobody was watching me, then I walked to I fence. You braggart, she spat. Dn you think you are so handsome that I must keep running after you? Cool down, I said. Teenless, you want to see me kicked out of this place. Stop having ideas about jumping over the fence. I night. Coward, she hissed. No wonder you couldn't make anything better than a servant. She was getting on my nerves. And what art you over there? One, I burst out. The Minister of Ichin Affairs. One, at Lcassi I do a woman's work, she retorted. Are not supposed to be housewives. Lee, IMV was PR degrees vote. Look here, Teresa, it one no my fault that my mother brought me into war D to BW hat. I am one germinated from cap, utility seed, the leftovers of creation. Yon hellorge to aim category, born to serve others. Now, let's stop this RNBBBH about what F should be and way shouldn't be. She smiled placatingly. One was only joking. I love jokes, but not being ridiculed. I hate being reminded of what I am because I know it, and there is nothing I can do about it. At least for the time being. Okay, she conceded. How about tonight? What of it? One, we meet tonight, she commanded rather than requested. If you don't want me to come to your quarters, we could meet right here. I thought for a while. Maybe I was simply docile or unsure of myself, or probably I had been repulsing her approach because she was making it too easy for me. Obviously I wasn't attracted to her, but she needed me as a tool for her own convenience. I was just about to give her my reply when one happened to look over my shoulder and saw Caroline approaching. When one turned my head again, Teresa had already fled, leaving her demand unanswered. She wasn't taking a chance. We the daughter of her bosses, nay her catching us doing the forbidden. One retracted my steps to the flower garden and pretended to be busy. It was a Saturday afternoon and I wasn't needed in the kitchen until later. From the corner of my eye, I watched Caroline strolling in the flower gardens, carrying her elegance like Miss Universe exploring HCT Butte Kingdom. She was S.C.M. Ian Tile and built with high-quality Mayfria, Looking at her, I wondered if she was really walking or floating. Too nervous to meet her eyes, I looked the eye her way until I was sure she had bypassed me. His had always been the routine. We had all along been strangers to each other, strangers by social distinctions. I turned my head, expecting to find her gone. My heart jerked when I saw her standing behind me, staring at me with blank cold eyes. I had seen that look before, the look of a prisoner in search of escape, only this time I was the object of her look. For the first time since we both became aware of each other's existence, our eyes met in a straight line. "Are you surprised?" Her voice sounded a long way away. "Surprised, eh?" "Ah no," I slurred. She smiled slightly. Then she said it. "How do you like that girl?" "Which girl?" "The IR you were talking to over the fence." "Oh, that one." I didn't know what to answer. "Is she your girlfriend?" she pursued. "What, do you love her now?" "Now, what's she up to?" "No," I said flatly. "Just friends." "Shit. Maybe you are lying to myself," I said. "So what'll you are lying?" she repeated. "Well, I thought, you can tell your lather that his servant is IIAV.IT, an affair with the maid next door. Time I make me decide." Seeing the hostile look in MVS or mischievous smile in Nam H.LF, who? 1XL, LTSHCI, AppCap MCap Y, IF 1HD tie decides it, 1T0 IDM. H-cap father to come home and report the cap for care. Father loved her, a single word he enough to have me kicked out of TNC. Notice. But then, what would I lose for PW up to at the end of the month? The Deltcats. But then, all the good things ITLW. Here were mere privileges and not rights. 1BTJV without them, and one could still do so, the sooner. But when a week passed without a word, from my employer, I decided that Caroline had either the matter drop or she simply had no ill motive. Meanwhile, I caught her several times watching me from a distance, but she never got so close as she did that afternoon. Teresa didn't call again. She had either given up or got scared after that incident. So, it was a BOH out of the blue when I recognized Caroline's voice calling at my door in the middle of the night. I hesitated if F could struggle out of the bed to open the door for her. There could only be one reason for her calling at that hour, an unimaginable reason. My heart throbbed.